You should get. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Let's Talk. This is our District 25. I'm Senator Melanie Griffith, and we have been having a series since the pandemic. We started a series of conversations with folks in District 25 and across really the state of Maryland who have information about subject matters we can all benefit from. We have had topics like healthy eating on a budget. We've had sessions on avoiding cyber scams and schemes. We had a session on funerals and estate planning and wills. We've even had a session on summer activities and how to find a job. Tonight's topic is back to school, and we have two phenomenal presenters that are going to share with us this evening. And we know a lot of times traditionally when we think back to school, we're talking about, most of us are thinking about K through 12, and we have a phenomenal school system in Prince George's County Public Schools. But we thought we'd do something a little different and be non-traditional and talk to two leaders in our county who know something about a different kind of education. And so our first guest is Dr. Falecia Williams. She is the president of Prince George's Community College. And I'm going to share a little from her bio, but I will tell you all, if you haven't gotten to know her, she is a phenomenal leader and a true asset in Prince George's County and in District 25. We're very, very proud to have her in our community. And she has assumed the role of president of Prince George's Community College since 2020, following more than 2 decades of progressively responsible leadership positions at Falecia College in Orlando, Florida. She's a transformational leader who values learning as much as leading, and she understands the power of inspiring others. She has a proven record of achieving and advancing catalytic change in higher education. Dr. Williams demonstrates a covenant to equity and excellence that goes beyond buzzwords and focuses on helping individuals attain their highest quality of life. She's currently implementing the Prince George's Community College Strategic Plan and its bold new vision, Dare to be Extraordinary, leading the institution towards exemplary outcomes in student learning, workforce attainment, business partnerships, and community engagement. I'm not going to read more of her bio because we're going to send it out with the link to this video and hope that you all will consume it and get to know her as well as I have. She's a dynamic leader, and we're going to hear from her in just a minute. Dr. Williams is going to do her presentation and tell us what's going on in Central Prince George's County at the community college. And then we're going to hear from a District 25 resident who is also a friend and a phenomenal home educator, Doretea Burton. Her journey as a mother and home educator is truly remarkable and inspiring. Her dedication to providing her children with a strong educational foundation through homeschooling has yielded impressive results. Not only have her children gained admission to prestigious universities and excelled in academic achievements, but they've also faced the challenges and complexities that arise when dealing with speech and language development issues and learning differences. Her extensive 22-year career as a home educator demonstrates a deep commitment to both teaching children and equipping parents with the tools and knowledge they need to be effective educators for their children. Leading a home teaching organization focused on creative educational engagement highlights Doretea's leadership skills and her desire to share her experience with other parents who are seeking innovative ways to educate their children. So thank you both so much for joining us. We're going to hear from Dr. Williams first, then Doretea, and we'll take some questions and answers. You can feel free to put your questions in the chat throughout the presentation. And for those of you that are watching this on recording, we will be sending out with this link information about how you can reach our office with additional questions that we'll make sure get connected with our presenters. So put your Zoom hands together for Dr. Falecia Williams.
Thank you all so much. Thank you so much, Senator Griffith. I know that you all know how spectacular she is, and I just must share that she really is amazing. She is one of the first people that I met in my transition in 2020 to Prince George's Community College, and she has really just demonstrated such a high degree of integrity as well as commitment and devotion to District 25. So let me just say how fortunate we are to be in District 25. I want to just share with you a bit about what's going on at Prince George's Community College. We are your college, and we are just so excited about the happenings that we see in our neighborhood, shall we say. So, first, I just want to share with you a bit about our mission. You may not recognize just how significant it is focused on you as a community. We exist to serve you. We exist to ensure that you are able to indeed achieve your goals and to achieve the aspirations that you have set forth as it relates to your development, to your professional growth, as well as economic prosperity. We are bold and absolutely committed to being able to say that this is so important for us, and we want to ensure that you are tremendously successful in doing it. Sorry, I'm having there we go. We're also at a place where we have looked at our core commitments, and it's become extremely important to us that we put students first at the center of our work. And so you'll see that we have adopted these principles that you see captured on the screen here: students first, achievement, continuous improvement, empathy, equity, and integrity, because we believe this is so important in terms of how we interact and we engage with our students, as well as how we engage with the community. And we know that the community, particularly those who are surrounding the college campus, they really see us as a part of their day-to-day life, and we see them as a part of our community as well. So it's our commitment that when you encounter us on campus, that you would see us demonstrating these types of characteristics. Our theme, as Senator Griffith shared, for our strategic plan and our strategic endeavors is daring to be extraordinary, right? We have determined that the status quo is not acceptable. We envision ourselves as being the premier center for higher education, and we believe that we are uniquely poised to be able to do that. And we hope that you will join us in this journey of being extraordinary, exceptional, and striving as well as achieving excellence in what we do. I just want to point out the photos here are from commencement in this past May. And this just gives you a sense of the pride that we carry as an institution in seeing our students, our residents, matriculate through our halls and reach their ultimate goal of graduation. You may not know, but we were founded in 1958. So this is indeed our 65th anniversary. All year, you will see us celebrating 65 years. And I certainly hope that you will join us as we publish a number of our public-facing events for you to be able to participate. We were housed on the campus of Suitland High School, and we initially met as a night school, hence our motto, or actually our mascot, which is the owl, because it was a night school at the time. And we were the first educational institution to integrate in Prince George's County. So just know that that is fundamental to our existence, that it's always been a place that was intended to welcome all people for Prince George's County. We're presently a 2-year institution. Most people are familiar with the large campus. And then we have 5 centers that are distributed across Prince George's County. And you can see the types of programs that we offer, small classes that make learning here very intimate. We endeavor to continue to make sure that you know that you belong when you're attending here at the college, and that you get to know people and you can know them by name. More than 200 academic programs. We have not only degree programs, but we also have career programs. We have short-term programs. We do quite a bit of credential training. You may be familiar with our programs for seniors that we call SAGE. So we offer a variety of programs in a variety of locations, and we want to make sure that our community sees us as deeply accessible. This year, we are just proud to to share that we actually have pierced the top in a number of rankings. Best of the community colleges in Maryland, ranked 8. Online colleges in Maryland, that includes all universities, 14. Online associate degree in business administration. So this is a programmatic designation, ranked 22. Most promising place to work for community colleges. And we've also been designated as a White House champion for change. So we're certainly very proud of these public-facing designations that we have earned. We're most excited, however, about student success. And so we look at our student population, and 53% of students are attending part-time because most people are working, they have other responsibilities, taking care of children as well as spouses and parents. But 29% of our students are first-time, full-time students. They're here, they're trying to finish their degrees within the 2 years, and the majority are also trying to transfer into the state university system where we have strong pathways to schools such as University of Maryland College Park, Bowie State, to Towson, University of Maryland Global Campus. These are just some of the schools where we have a strong transfer pattern. And we know that we still have a tremendous return on investment. The beauty of the work that we do here at the community college is we lift families, we lift individuals, those who come to us and are working and earning. You can get a $3.70 per every single dollar increase just by completing your degree. So what that translates to is within 3 years after graduation with your associate degree, typically our students are going to be earning $25,000 or more than they were while they were in college. That's a return on investment that we're extremely proud of. In 2022, right, so we're just a year from this, we had a record number of successes, 71% more associate degrees and credit certificates. It is the highest in the history of our institution. So at a time where we look and we see that though enrollment may not have been at a record level, but success and achievement is. And so this is absolutely substantial for us. Our graduation rate is up to 17%. And I know when we look at that number, it doesn't seem like a strong number, but I just want to share, it wasn't too long ago, it was 5%. And we have the preliminary numbers for 23-24, and the preliminary numbers without counting summer success, we have already jumped to 25%. So the rate of increase is absolutely phenomenal, and that is truly attributed to the fantastic faculty and staff that we have here at the college. For workforce development, again, talked about more than 200 types of programs, health-related programs, STEM-related programs, programs in business and culinary, hospitality, arts and entertainment, you name it. We also have programs related to developing one's English language proficiency, community education across things such as painting and doing sculpture development, and even things, practical things such as want to become a registered notary, right? All of those things are available here. And we have partnerships that we provide to business and industry to be able to send their incumbent workers here to continue their education and their professional development training. And we're so excited about this. More than 1,000 courses are offered each year based upon the demand that we see in our local community. We have our SAGE program, Seasoned Adults, Growing Educationally. It is never too late to learn. So for all of our seniors that are out there, here's the opportunity for you to be able to invest your time and energy in something that you've always wanted to know. We're also very fortunate in the state of Maryland in that if you enroll in a community college in the state of Maryland, your tuition is covered, right? It is waived. And so for persons that are 60 years old, your tuition's covered. You might have to pay a fee. I see some people smiling about that. You might have to pay a small fee for the course that's associated with the materials, but the tuition is waived. So if you're sitting back in that chair just wondering what you could do, there's a class here at the college that is waiting just for you. extremely affordable, and our students build so many relationships and connections. In fact, we find that a lot of our seniors, they come together with their best friends and their best buds. Now, $40 per class registration fee. And you only have to pay for 2. Let's say that you wanted to take 3 or 4 classes. Then the third and the fourth class and everything beyond is on us. We waive those fees. So if you want to take a course and you're a senior, guess what? $80 is the max that you would have to pay. And again, if you feel like you want to take more, you can. We'll cover the cost for it. We also have a number of our forward movement scholarships, because we want to make sure that not only are we physically accessible, but it's important to us that we are financially affordable and that we open pathways for our residents to be able to enroll with us. So we have our Promise scholarships, and let me also share with you some exciting news about just development, areas that we're growing that may be useful to you as well. So the Promise Scholarship is just that. We have 2 levels of the Promise Scholarship. The first is the Prince George's County Promise Scholarship, where we're so grateful to our county government for helping to subsidize these particular scholarships for students. They allow for students to be able to complete their education because it covers the cost. And many times it also bridges the gap between what a student might have earned with financial aid and what they still need in order to be able to enroll in classes here with us. So we encourage students and families to apply early for those scholarships. You're going to see information that is going to be going out in the next couple of weeks, and that is to encourage people to be ready for the application deadline of March 1st, 2024. Just to give you an example of how prominent this particular scholarship program has become. Last year, by the deadline, we had 77 applicants. This past year, by the deadline, we had 677 applicants, right? So the growth has been tremendous. And that means that there are more of our local students who are benefiting from these additional resources to help them in terms of being able to subsidize the costs of their education. And with inflation and the cost of living and everything else accelerating, we don't want to leave any of this money in our coffers. Every year, our goal is to spend it. We're not trying to save it. So I want to encourage you to apply early. So if you know students who have either been out of school for 2 years or are preparing to graduate, then please encourage them to apply and to consider starting with Prince George's Community College. It's a wonderful 2+2 model for them to be able to transfer. And we also have the state of Maryland's Promise Scholarship as well. And so that opens doors for a number of our students and our residents that may be new Americans, and they have the opportunity, rather than utilizing the federal qualifying criteria, they can use the state of Maryland's qualifying criteria. And so tell the community, hey, they've got those Promise scholarships over there. So there are dollars that are available to assist. Now, for the remaining time, and I'm going to honor the time that I was given, I just wanted to share with you what you may be seeing. If you drive by the campus and you see that there's a lot of construction that's going on, I want you to get excited about it, because this is about future growth and development. And it is also the result of the extremely good work of Senator Griffith and so many others among our elected officials, as well as at the state and at the county level. So all of this innovation that you see is because we are working together and on one accord about the needs of the county. And we recognize that as students experience our campuses, it's not just the people, but it's the places and the spaces that they encounter. And when students are in refreshed and innovative and top of the line spaces, then there's also this sense of a place and achievement and drive. And so we want our facilities to be second to none. If you come on campus now, you'll see that there's a major building that is under construction. It's called Marlborough Hall. You're looking at the rendering of that building, $164 million building. It is scheduled to be delivered in December of next year of 24. And so we will kick off the spring of 25 in this new building. It is amazing, and we're truly excited about that. Marlborough Hall. We also have the Dr. Charlene Micken-Dukes Student Center on campus. And so that building is slated to be torn down. You're looking at the rendering of it, but it's slated to be torn down in 25. So when we reopen Marlborough Hall, we will tear the Duke Center down, and then we will build it back up. We will go from our 2 floors to actually 3 floors in that building. And we will debut a brand new community space with a rooftop garden that's planned for that particular space. So the entire 3rd floor devoted to community programs and services. And so we hope to be able to bring that building online in 27, right? This is a 2-year build. And so from January to January of 27 is what we hope will be the case with that one. We also have then Bladen Hall, which is in the middle of the campus. We don't yet have a rendering for this building. It's early in its stages, but it too has already been approved through the state process. And so when we finish, whoops, let's come out of that. 1 second. When we finish with the Duke Student Center, we will come into Bladen Hall. We're going to tear this one down as well, take it to the studs, and build it back up. And so that should take us from 27 through 29. So I share this to say you're going to see a lot of change, a lot of innovation, a lot of advancement that is happening at our Largo campus over the next several years. We are already also in a project related to our Annex A. We are actually consolidating the programs and services from the Camp Springs location and the Westphalia location on campus into this newly envisioned building, which will bring our skilled trades together under one roof. So things such as HVAC and plumbing and welding, all of those things are going to be right here on the Largo campus in this newly designed building. Phase 1, which is right now Annex A, you may recognize this building and say, that looks familiar. This portion of it doesn't exist yet, but we are already under construction, renovating this building, and we will bring phase 1 of these renovations online in the spring of 24. So this is another active project. Accokeek Hall, which in old school language we used to call the library, and now we have our sophisticated modern language of learning commons and learning resource centers. And so we are undergoing a renovation of this space as well, because we're bringing all of our learning support services together in an integrated fashion around reading and writing and mathematics under one roof. So places where students can go and get the support that they need to be successful in their classes. And once again, this should debut by the end of this year, the renovated space, so that it will be in place when we return after the holidays in January. And with the remainder time, I just want to share, we have a vision for adding a campus in the southern part of the county. And so this will be a part of our new strategic work that we're doing with the state to advance our 10-year facilities plan. And so we hope to share more details about this. We're currently exploring sites and locations, and that proposed plan should be finished by the end of the year. Now, the track is a very popular place. We have both the track, the inner ring, and the outer ring. And once again, we are working on a project to amplify and to completely revitalize the track that's on campus. It's used largely by the community for health and wellness on any given day, Monday through Sunday. You come by in the morning or you come by in the evening, you will see persons that are walking on the track for exercise. So we are looking forward to doing a complete renovation of that space. And this is just the second part of the building, the Workforce Development, Innovation, and Training Center that will be renovated in the future. And then Chesapeake Hall. So if you're in the science buildings, which we'll need to change out, that's actually Bladen, but if you're in Chesapeake Hall, because we have such a strong focus on STEM, We are renovating all of our science labs to make sure that they are state of the art in what we do. So I just simply share with you, it's really about our students and the story of our students. And these are just a few quotes from those who have matriculated with us that tell us really the success of what we do. You can see our students are transitioning from us. They're continuing on all across the country. Here, when we look at Vanessa, she went on to Towson, and she just praises the professors in the classrooms. Kiri, once again, a psychology student who has graduated with us, doing extremely well. Our students are amazing. And so I thank you for this time. We're excited to be back. That's actually 5. We're excited to be back. And we are so grateful to you again for this opportunity to share.
Well, we thank you so much, Dr. Williams. I know that you have so much that you can share, and hopefully you'll be able to share a little bit more during the question and answer section. And certainly want to encourage those of you who are viewing this live to put your questions in the chat, and we will have a live question and answer at the end of our presentation. So make note on your notepads or in the chat room, because you will have an opportunity to ask Dr. Williams some questions in just a moment. Now we're going to turn to our second presenter, Doretea Burton. I introduced her earlier. She is the premier home educator in District 25 and has some extraordinary children. I hope she'll share with you one of the announcements that one of her children received just a week or so ago. But Doretea, a lot of our viewers, a lot of our constituents in District 25 have never talked to someone who's been a home educator. So we look forward to your presentation.
All right. Well, I am so glad to be here in great company. And I wanted to add my children actually to the list of Prince George's Community College success stories. It was a very important partner in my homeschool journey, where my eldest child did 11th and 12th grade year dual enrollment there. And my second eldest child did the same thing, and they've gone on to wonderful careers. And the second child is now matriculating with all A's at UMES, and due in no small part to the work and the preparation of the professors at Prince George's Community College. So I wanted to start, I hope that it can be more of a conversation, because I know that there is so much mystery sometimes surrounding homeschooling. And whenever I talk to someone, they always start by saying, I never knew how that worked, or I thought that homeschool children are odd. And that's probably the most common reaction that I get. And so I want to start by saying what homeschooling is. It is providing an education opportunity for your child at home. It is not, for many of us, an attempt to shelter our children, but usually we have a family structure, or you may identify something exceptional in your child where you have decided that, hey, homeschooling them might be a wonderful opportunity for this child. And that's exactly how I got into homeschooling over 20 years ago. My eldest child, I was able to see that she was able to read and comprehend things at a very early age. That made me feel like maybe there was more that I can do to challenge her. And it was that child that asked me to home educate her. And I thought the same thing that other people thought: oh my gosh, that might make me look weird, or how will I be received in my community? But once I decided that it was the best option for her, I took a complete dive into it, and I created my own curriculum. And it was very challenging to do that, but it was rewarding over the years. As I increased my family size, I had to be mindful that these were choices that I was making for the other children who were not choosing to be home educated. So one of the challenges of home education is you have to be mindful that you are responsible for doing all the work that I think, Melanie, you might be trying to contact me, but I cannot see it. Okay, I apologize. You're responsible for all of the work that that you need to do as if you were a teacher. You have to learn to put your teacher hat on and put your mom hat on at different times. So that has been probably the biggest challenge. There are times when you have a child who may not get along with you as a teacher, and you have to bow out and you have to get professional instructors to come in. I shared with Melanie earlier that my father was a physicist and a mathematician. So the way that he taught math makes me not a very good math teacher for my children, because he taught me lots of shortcuts and lots of things to do in my head. And so I'd be talking to one of my children and say, can't you see if you just do this or just do that? And they weren't able to get it. And it's very easy to cross the line and just be mean. And I've had to challenge myself with that. So that's how I got started. But tonight we're talking about back to school. What does it look like for a home educator? It really depends on when you start school. Some home educators will learn all year long. Some home educators start along with the public school system. So whenever those children go back, our children will go back to school. When I moved to Maryland, because of the way that we have to review with the county, I followed a school year with my children. Prior to that, we learned all year long, and that way it was never really stressful for anyone. So when it's back to school time, so that they will feel a little bit special, I always start very gently. So we start with breakfast, we start with meetings, and I let them decide what they want to learn this year. And I say decide, but it's really me leading them into what I've already planned for them to do. So that's for the younger years. We do a lot of fun things together. And then we get into the meat of the work, because that makes them feel the same excitement that children feel as they're going off to the bus and meeting new students. I think it's very important not to try to recreate school at home, because I think that a child gets burnt out. I think even when COVID, we saw that with children who were with screens all day as if it were school. That can be very challenging for children. So that's one of our big back to school traditions. And it can change from year to year, but generally that's what we do. We go over new rules. Now, when I think about how to do homeschooling, that probably is another mystery. How do you teach your children? What are you teaching them? What do you want them to learn? I usually follow the model of the school that I attended when I was in high school. I attended an academic high school, and I'm focusing on high school because we have the college present. I followed that model because it was successful for me. It was successful for many of my friends. And I don't have the certifications as an educator. So I wanted to make sure that I was responsible to my child. So we do language instruction. We start with Latin, and then we do 3 years of a foreign language. We do the same math courses that I did, algebra, going on to geometry. We do science. And I don't have the opportunity to do AP classes in homeschool. And that's where Prince George's Community College came in for me and my children. When they were in the 9th and 10th grade, I made sure that they took cooperative classes outside of the home with other schools or programs. And that provided them the opportunity to learn from someone other than me. When you're teaching your child at home, if you're the only teacher, you're the only perspective that they'll ever have. I do think that that's something we have to be conscious of as home educators. If I'm the only one to teach you history, you'll only know history through my lens. You will never understand the perspective of people that even can look like you, but are not raised like you. I'm a Southerner, so my values are different. So they need to hear other points of views. I believe when you're learning, especially science, because I am a Christian and I teach it from a Christian worldview, it's also important that you try to get science taught even at the collegiate level, so that your child can hear a world-centered worldview, because it is still their choice whether they follow your religion or not. I think that's another thing that is important with home education. So I follow that model for my children, and I make sure that we do what's called a high school roadmap. And I've left that with Senator Griffith's office. And if anybody wants to get a copy of it, they'll email it out. I think that that's available, if not placed in a chat. But it gives an entire overview of the 4 years. If you have a child that you want to be college bound, preparing for college does not begin in the 9th, 10th, or 11th grade. it begins in the 7th grade, as early as the 6th grade. If you want them to be a candidate for a service academy, for example, you have to make preparations to be at a calculus level or higher by the 12th grade. So that means that there's certain math courses that need to happen in the middle school years. So I think it's important for the back to school time for our students to do that. And right now, my student that's entering the 9th grade, that's what we're doing together. We start with her dreaming. And this morning she said, well, I was thinking of learning this or learning that, but I don't think I'm able to. And I tell her, we can do anything. We can go get a tutor or we can try. And so it's important to find out what the child's interests are so that they'll be ready to meet those interests. I wanted to make sure that when I talked about back to school and how I do it, one of the things that was challenging in how to do it is if you have a child that has learning differences, or if you have a child that becomes ill, or if you yourself become ill. That has been a challenge that many of my fellow homeschooling moms that I know have faced. I had a child who very early on had a speech impediment. And when you are home educating your child, you don't really get the support services that are available in the public school system. So that was a downside to it. Looking back, I needed to become more of an advocate for my child who had the learning difference, because I allowed the doctors to tell me, oh, I've seen a speech impediment that's worse, or it's not that bad, or it'll clear up. And because I didn't have a teacher partner also advocating for that child, it took a very long time before we could finally figure out what was going on. And it was actually a mechanical issue. He had to have his adenoids and tonsils removed, and it improved greatly. But it delayed a lot of reading opportunities. And he felt so self-conscious speaking in public. And one thing that I would do is I would immediately leave if he became uncomfortable. So that was an area where I needed to stress myself. So I think when we have children that have learning differences in homeschool, it can be easy to hide. And that wasn't the best choice for that child. And you have to really take accountability, because I don't feel guilt, but I think that by taking accountability, it helps us to grow. And it has helped me to help other mothers when I say, here are the things that I would do differently with that particular child. So I wanted to mention that. The other thing that has happened is I've had children that have had depression, and I've had to work with them. And that can be really tough because I know that they are depressed and they're saying they don't want to do their work. But it is my job at that moment to take off the mother hat and put on the teacher hat and figure out what we can do, and also find partners with mental health professionals and counselors that can help me to get through those moments. And that probably, it feels very vulnerable because you feel like, is it because they're homeschooled? Is it because they were sheltered? Is it because they haven't seen anybody today? And so you start to make up all of these things, but then you have to be honest, even in those moments, my children were very well adjusted. They were involved in a ton of activities. And one of those activities has been to volunteer, to make up their own charities. And I really try to encourage them to find their own pursuits. And that brings me to my, child number 4. I have 6, so I have to remember which number. And that child, through her volunteer service and through, research, she's figured out that she wants to be an advocate. And she recently was nominated to be a part of the Governor's Youth Advisory Council. And so we are so excited to have one of our district residents, thanks to Senator Griffith's nomination and the nomination of the speaker. We are just so honored that I could raise someone, and I want to take credit and beat my chest that you raise someone that very early on knows what they want to do and be an advocate, and then you present the child with those opportunities. These are things I could not have imagined as a child. But as a homeschooler, it gives me the freedom to find the opportunities for my children, even things that I don't know about. Another one of my children took a homeschool project and turned it into a viable business. He decided he did not want to go to college, but he is now an entrepreneur, and he's been featured on TV shows, and his product is in kitchens everywhere. It's in stores, it's in restaurants. So it took some humbling, because as a homeschooler, I felt kind of odd. Oh, if this one doesn't go to college, they'll think that I didn't prepare them for college. So that's what I mean by taking the teacher hat off and putting the mom hat on. Um, I wanted to also talk about how I bring in other opportunities for my kid to address people believe that homeschoolers are not socialized or that they are sheltered. And it is true that home educated students can be sheltered, and they can be awkward when it comes to socialization. But I think that that can be found also in public and private schools. I think as parents, we have to be very careful to present our children with opportunities where they are interacting with adults who are safe. And a safe adult includes an adult that speaks to my child um, in a way that supports their growth. So an adult that will talk to them, hey, how are you doing? What are you doing today? What are you learning? And challenge them. I think it's also important for me to put my child into classes and other programs where they get to meet children. And when we leave those programs, we always do a debrief. How was it? What did you learn? What did you think of that child? How did you enjoy playing with them? What did you say? What did they say to you? That wasn't nice. The next time you see that child, you need to apologize. So I feel that it's given me an opportunity to what I call mother on purpose. And that was my goal the entire time as I educated my children. The last point that I'll make, because I could talk about homeschooling forever, and I'm so nervous because I want to make sure I hit all of your questions. But people say, how in the world did you teach 6 children at the same time? And I will say it wasn't easy, but it sure was fun. And the way that I learned to do it the most fun way and effective way is I created lots of projects. So the project that became my son's business was actually an entrepreneurial project. I would challenge the children to think of a business concept. And when they think of the business concept, one year someone was selling painted pictures. I think she was 3 when she did that. And I had my 7-year-old daughter at one time. She said she wanted to sell a non-electric phone. And it was just a little box. If you were too ashamed or too afraid to talk to your mom about something, you could write a note, put it in the box, leave it for your mom, and you could communicate through that. So we would have them come up with these business ideas. How does that help you to homeschool a bunch of kids? There's math involved. You have to do a cost of goods sold. We talked about taxes. We had time management. If you need to go to the store to buy your supplies, I wouldn't tell the children what time to leave. They would have to tell me where to leave. You have navigation skills. How do I get to Michael's? They'd have to tell me how to do those things. We would have them to do flyers for their business. They had to speak to people, and then I would create resource fairs. So I would invite other moms to come to business exposition, so all of our children could have the opportunity to talk and engage with the other parents, the other siblings and family members, and to hawk their wares, shall you say. So I did a lot of projects when I was teaching my children. And if there wasn't an opportunity, I created it. I thought they needed a career fair. I got a bunch of my friends to come together and we did a career fair, and we would do it for the community. So those are some of the rewarding things that I've been able to do. I would love to take questions because I think that's easier to focus on the questions that you all have. But I am a proponent of home education, but I'm also a proponent of public schools, private schools. I think at the end of the day, you really have to do what is absolutely best for your child. And it's always, it's easy to make a pivot. If it doesn't work for you, it's easy to pivot back into the public school system. And if you want to go to a private school, it's easy to do that. And I'm just so fortunate that I live in a county that makes it easy to do either of those things.
Thank you so much, Doretea. So you all now get the rhythm of Let's Talk. I get to talk to these 2 fabulous, powerful women on my own, and I'm sharing them with all of you this evening. Before we get to question and answer, I wanted to make sure that I introduced my staff. They are like just integral to everything that I do, and I want to make sure that you all get a chance to meet them. And then we're going to start our question and answer. Of course, I'm going to cheat and ask the first question and then see if you all have any. And then I know we have some questions that we already had coming into the office when this started, so Tosha will manage those. So team, introduce yourselves quickly. Tosha.
Hello, everyone. My name is Tosha Davis. I serve as Senator Griffith's Chief of Staff. This is my first Let's Talk, and I'm so excited. It's been amazing. Karen?
Hi, everybody. I'm Karen White, Senator Griffith's Legislative Director. It's good to see you all again, and thank you for joining us tonight.
Sharma.
Yes.
There you go.
Hi, everyone. I'm Sharma Brousseau. I'm Senator Griffith's Community Liaison Person. Thank you.
Thank you all. Thank you all so much. Couldn't do it without you. So we have two incredible speakers. We started a little late, so I'm going to ask you all's indulgence because I want to make sure that we get to ask both of our presenters some questions. Dr. Williams, I'm going to start with you. And for those of you that are here live, if you have questions, you can put them in the chat, or you can use the raise your hand indicator, and we'll call on you to ask these phenomenal women some questions. Dr. Williams, I was so intrigued by the SAGE program. Having just turned 60, I am now eligible for this fabulous program. So I guess I'm curious. I hadn't heard about this. I think Sharma may have heard about it. Yeah. So can you just tell me what kind of offerings, or does this apply to all of the class? Like I could take anything at the community college?
That's correct. You can take anything at the community college. Now, so SAGE, of course, is our branded program that what it ensures is that you're going to have seniors with seniors, largely being taught by seniors. So think of it as a FUBU experience for us, by us, right? So I'm aging myself in the middle of that.
I was getting ready to
say. Going way back. But so SAGE in and of itself is a learning community of seniors. And again, the unique part about the SAGE program is you're going to have seniors who are prominent in that particular skill teaching other seniors. But in fact, in the state of Maryland, a senior citizen may enroll at the community college in any course, and the tuition will be waived. So if you want to take courses that are being taught, for example, by Professor Lindsay, who is on the screen, right? She's not necessarily teaching a SAGE course. She teaches credit courses over in our social sciences division. You may also take those classes and you will be enrolled within our regular student population. So each year we have a number of our senior citizens that are actually pursuing college credit degrees, and they graduate, right? Sometimes it is that dream that was long forgotten or was shelved for the priorities of our children or other things that happened in life, and they return to be able to complete their degree. So the full complement of our programmatic offerings and our course offerings are available to individuals who are 60 and above at no cost of tuition. Again, the $40 for the SAGE is a fee. It's not the tuition. The tuition is waived.
Wow. I want to take Spanish. Who's with me? Okay. You're not 60 yet. Okay. Any other questions?
I have a question. Hollis and I, we just registered in the computer course. And I don't know, maybe we didn't get the full discount because I paid $100 and he had two and he's paying $200. So I don't know if yeah, I think he said 240. He's on the listening on too. So I don't know if did we miss the SAGE program or something?
It sounds like it. You probably did. You probably registered on your own and not through the SAGE office. Is that what happened?
I think we registered to the SAGE office. I got my receipt because I didn't know.
So if you registered through the SAGE office, and it sounds like maybe you registered for more than two classes.
I registered for one.
You registered for one? Yeah. So that should have cost $40.
I'm looking at my receipt.
Okay. So
all right, well, I'll take care of that later on.
What I'll do is post it in the chat and you can
Yeah.
send it to me. Because let me just say this too. What will happen is it will look like you're billed and then you will receive a credit because the scholarship will be applied once, right? Do you
Okay.
follow what I'm saying? So if you're in the SAGE and let's say you take 3 classes, it's going to show a bill for $120, but then the college will come back and apply a scholarship for $40.
Okay, so continuing education, is that the same as the SAGE?
It may or may not have been a SAGE course. Continuing education is not necessarily the same, but a senior could enroll in a continuing education course.
Okay, so probably that's what we registered in the continuing education course.
Okay, yes.
That's the problem.
That's different. So think of it this way. The global indicator is if I'm a senior citizen and I'm going to be enrolling in a credit-bearing course, then your tuition for the credit-bearing course is going to be waived, or your tuition for a continuing education course is going to be waived. But if there is a fee that is related to materials, supplies for that course, that is the cost that you will incur, but you won't incur the tuition costs. If it is a SAGE course, that is where, again, SAGE, the distinction is in classes with seniors being taught by seniors. Okay, it's a learning community. That's where then you would have the $40 price point, and after 2 courses, then we provide scholarships for you to take them.
Excellent. Thank you for that. Ava Richardson has a question.
Yes, Dr. Williams, is such a pleasure, and I'm really proud and flabbergasted, that you were speaking at this meeting tonight, as well as, again, hello to our newly elected SGA president, Ms. Deborah Elihu, and Yvette and Belinda. I didn't know Belinda. And I saw that PGCC behind. I was like, oh, okay, let me say a hi to her. But yes, I think that you're, doing a wonderful job, at the school, and I am just impressed and thrilled, to see the energy and the kindness and the love that, exudes from your heart. And all I can say is, I'm praying for you, keep up the good work. And I did want to ask you this one question. I'm going to be short of a math credit, when it's time to graduate. Will I still be able to walk across the stage?
Yes, ma'am. You will. So you will. Now what you should do is you should still apply to graduate for the spring. You're referring to for the upcoming spring, or whatever the appropriate term.
Yeah, upcoming spring.
Okay. You should still apply to graduate by the deadline. That's really important. Submit your application to graduate by the deadline. And there is a process that we conduct after we certify those who have met all of the criteria to graduate. We have a secondary process where we certify those that are within 6 hours. And we give those individuals the opportunity to participate in the ceremony as well.
Okay. Well, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Thank you. I'm going to Tosha, there are questions in the chat, and I know you have some that have come into the office for both of our presenters. So you can you want to go Doretea, Dr. Williams, Dr. Williams, kind of get some questions in, and then we'll respect folks' time. We're going to go a little bit over, but we started a little bit late, so hopefully everybody's okay.
Okay, thank you, Senator Griffin. The first question from the chat is, how does Prince George's Community College, how are you reaching out to the high schools?
That's a great question. So we actually have a team of staff that are called Coast Coordinators, and they are regionally distributed across all of the public high schools. And then from the public high schools, they're also aligned to associated nonprofits and agencies in those particular communities. And they actually work from the campus of the high school as well as from the college campus. So they're there as another resource within the high school setting to help our high school students make some decisions and some determinations about enrolling in college. Oftentimes they'll have 2 to 3 high schools that they're working with. So they might spend a couple days at school A, a couple days at school B, and then the 5th day they're going to be on campus with us. And then they also do specialty programming within the community. One of the things that we are trying to work on, and I tell you, I would just love to learn so much from Doretea. They clearly found us, but the homeschool population is so important because we do know that oftentimes the community college curriculum is a very appropriate pairing for the high school students that are being homeschooled. And so we're always trying to find the best ways to reach out to those co-ops as well as to individual families. So we do that through our community work, through our community engagement, and then through promotions that we have on our website as well.
Thank you, Dr. Williams. Ms. Burton, one of the questions we have for you is, are there any online resources for parents that are homeschooling? And if so, is there something that you can recommend that you use?
Yes, I think resource is such a wide term when it comes to homeschooling. So there are online curriculum, there's online ideas like how to get it done. And so if you're looking for ideas on how to get it done, honestly, the best way to search for ideas is to do a Pinterest search, homeschool, and then fill in the question. But you have to be really good at discerning the information. One thing that I will say is that a lot of times the image that a homeschooling parent might give might not be actually what it is. So it puts a lot of pressure on you. I had 6 kids. I can show you a picture of a clean house and a clean schoolroom, but I probably did that to show the picture. So that's why I say if you're looking for resources and tips on effectiveness, you have to really weigh the advice that you're giving. When it comes to resources on educating the child, the best resource is to go to, honestly, probably christianbookdistributors.com. And the reason that I say that is one place that homeschooling can improve is to provide more curriculum that is not based on a particular faith, but they do have a wide variety of books and subjects. So you can see Latin and Greek roots, for example, and it may jar your mind to say, hey, I would like to teach Latin and Greek roots, but you have to know why that's important. There are groups that are popping up online. Melanated Homeschoolers is one that's on Facebook. It's specifically for families of color. And so you kind of can watch what those people are doing. There's a very strong group out of the district that's called Sankofa Homeschool Collective. I believe it's collective or cooperative. They are very active. And we have in our county, there is Bridge and Extend programs. So you can look for homeschool cooperatives, and they will come with an associated mailing list where parents are giving one another advice. If your person who asked the question gets in touch with the senator's office, I absolutely enjoy, I consider it part of my ministry and purpose in life is to help parents through it. So I love answering questions. And then honestly, the Prince George's County homeschooling office. I know a lot of times homeschooling parents will shy away from government interaction. However, they're very resourceful. They're very nice. And I think that's another good place to get answers.
Thank you, Ms. Burton. Dr. Williams, we have someone who wants to know, is it too late to register for the fall?
It's not too late. It's not. We would love to have you. Now, clearly classes began last week, so we're already in the first week, but we do have later starting courses the second half of the semester. And so what I would encourage those individuals to do who would like to take a class this semester is to engage with us online. If you cannot get to a campus, you can go to our webpage, pgcc.edu. If you like to work with automated technology, we have a chat bot there, and we're dealing with artificial intelligence. The chat bot can get you connected to our front end admissions team, and they can help you to maneuver so that you can get your application done and you can get registered. There are actually a few things you can do on your own. I mean, like tonight, you could go to the website if you have access, digital access, and go ahead and submit your application, and someone will follow up with you within 24 hours. But it'd be very important for you to be able to do that if you want to take a course before the end of the semester. And then we do, I'm not saying it is for everyone, but we do offer a compressed winter term. It's 4 weeks. It's from the middle of, I'm just going to use these dates, but just know that they're approximates from December 15 to January 15. So it's compressed over the holiday season. And I have to tell you, it is the fastest growing term. It's very popular.
So I'm just going to quick piggyback on what you just talked about because someone put something in the chat, and then I'm going to come back to you, Ms. Burton. Someone wants to know, does Prince George's Community College have classes on holidays when the academic calendar states that the school is closed?
We shouldn't. However, we have a number let me say it this way. The main calendar is intended to largely cover the credit course schedule, right? So if you look at that calendar, it might say or suggest that the college is closed. However, just in the time frame that I just said, we're also running a winter term. Remember, we also have parallel courses that might be being offered out in the community, or they might be offered through a business partnership, and those are occurring on a different schedule. So it really depends on the type of course that one is enrolled in as to whether or not it could be occurring on a date that on the master calendar looks like the college is closed.
So it could be an accelerated course that
Could be an
they decided
accelerated
to go through the holidays.
It could be a
choice.
And it could be a SAGE course at a particular location because we have some customized course schedules for cohorts, right? So if it is a self-contained cohort, then we derive a schedule for that particular partner that we're working with. It could be a course that we're delivering for a particular business. And again, we're working around their schedule on an agreed upon set of dates.
Thank you, Dr. Williams. Ms. Burton, we have someone that wants to know, what if they're a parent that wants their child to experience the homeschooling experience, but they don't want to be the one who teaches them at home? Is that something you've incurred, or has that happened before?
I get that all the time. I get that question. Can you homeschool my child? And the answer is no. By law, home education has to be done by the parent. You are the only one that is authorized by the state to teach your child. Otherwise, the compulsory law applies to that child. There are opportunities where if you don't want to even be the primary teacher, so some of those programs that I mentioned, like Bridge, they'll prepare a curriculum that the child will follow at home, and they may meet 2 or 3 days a week at a location. So it provides the child the opportunity to socialize. They're learning from other teachers. It's a curriculum that they're preparing for your child, but you cannot have someone else teach your child in that way. You can do DVD programs at home. So that's the closest I can get, is a DVD program.
Thank you, Ms. Burton. Dr. Williams, real quick, you mentioned AI earlier, and we wanted to know, how can leaders better help students identify some of these trends for jobs so that they won't be replaced by artificial intelligence? What can leaders do to help?
Yeah, I think we're in a real transitory time period where we have to make a decision to get to know and to understand the technology rather than being fearful of the technology. I had this conversation with the entire academic community just briefly in my opening remarks for the start of the semester. It wasn't too long ago that we were fearful of the internet, right? And we were fearful of online classes. And so now here we are with artificial intelligence. And so I believe in particular as academicians, we have to study it, right? We need to get ahead of it so that we can understand really how it can be an enhancement and an augmentation in our work. And I think it's incumbent upon others to do the same. Read about it. Read about AI and learn the sort of skill set, if I may use that terminology, but learn what it is capable of doing, and then learn the implications of that for the particular types of jobs that you might be interested in. So, for example, I hosted a set of my tech team the day before I was going to be sharing for our fall convocation. And we just sat at the table. I wanted to find out what they were, right? These are subject matter experts in technology. And I just talked to them about, tell me about what your experience has been with AI. What are you doing already with some of the generative tools? What are the things that you would advise us? And what I learned is it's many of the things that were in their field. But what I also learned is that, you know, they're suggestion was that it wasn't going to eliminate particular jobs. It would decrease quantity and or need of particular types of skill sets within a job, so that a particular person, for example, could focus on a different aspect of the job that is not so compatible with AI. So it was really quite interesting. For example, one of the stories that was shared was about coding, right? And coding is one of those skills that we tried to make sure was more commonplace in our communities of color and some of our minoritized neighborhoods. And what they shared in that conversation is that coding is something that augmented artificial intelligence does well. Generative AI does coding extremely well. But then after you get to the coding, it is the what? The application of the coding, which still requires, right, the person, the human being. So in some aspects, we will save quite a bit of time, but it will allow us to focus on more of the downstream elements of being able to complete a project and a particular task. So I think we have to run to it, if I may use that phrase. We need to read about it. We need to research it. We need to become familiar with it. Dare I say, as much as we download apps around food and delivery, and we should be downloading an AI app, right? They persuaded me in the middle of that conversation. I sat there with one of my faculty. We downloaded AI Chat GPT. I sent it some questions, some predictive types of things. It was really quite fascinating. So spending time with it and becoming familiar with it is what I would encourage us to do, and keep reading about it, right? With a level of curiosity and recognizing it will have its place, right? It will have its place. And so it's better to be informed than to be blindsided.
Thank you so much, Dr. Williams. Ms. Burton, I have two questions for you. One is, when children are homeschooled, can they advance in grades quicker? And I'm going to give you the second part and let you answer both of them. And also, can a relative homeschool your child for you if they're not the parent, which is back to your answer of no.
Still trying to get it in there. That answer is not as much of a hard no, so I'll answer that one first. You can think of yourself as a conductor, like an orchestra conductor, when it comes to home educating your child. So in my homeschool, my mother was a great singer, so she did the music lessons, and every few years I'd make sure that it was a structured music program. I can't lift weights. I'm not a gym rat, so I would hire a personal trainer, and they did like a course, for the children. So you can involve your relatives in the home education process. You can even work and have a relative that stays home with the child and gets in the education that you prescribe for the child. But you are the beginning and the end of that homeschool process for your child. And that's what's most important to know. So as you start to involve other people with it, it gets tricky because you have to orchestrate the learning for your child. And I think the first question that you asked me was about, say one more time.
The first question was, when children are homeschooled, do they advance in their grades quicker? This was Demetria asked this question.
They can advance and they can also flunk. So I have flunked a child, and I have had children that have advanced. And the reason that I think sometimes it seems like the child advances a little bit quicker is because the child is dedicated more to that particular course of study. So I don't have line up and recess at certain times. So if you are more inclined to be a great math student and you finish that curriculum a little bit early, you can gain some time. I also, in my homeschool, I've had children that have been above their grade level in a certain subject, but it is because if I started off with the first few chapters and that child was making 100%, for example, I might go and get a higher grade book to see if that was more challenging for that child. If you're getting 100, I'm not teaching you anything. So there are opportunities for them to advance earlier, and I think that is an attraction to homeschool. But I try to make sure that the child is being challenged and being pushed, and as a result, they do sometimes end up on a higher grade level.